Good morning, everybody. Welcome to an I Policy for Young Leaders. My name is Vaishali, and I will be your host for the rest of the day. As you may already know, Center for Civil Society is a public policy think tank that works with young leaders like yourselves to bring about social change through the medium of public policy. Today will be a sneak peek into what we do during our 4-day residential programs, the ideas and principles that we advocate and champion to bring about more freedom and prosperity for all Indians. And most importantly, we hope that we will be able to offer you alternative and better solutions to the abundant problems plaguing our society.
Okay, I'm Priyanka. I'm studying in SRCC doing economics honors. I love to dance and I've been dancing Bharatanatyam for pretty long.
Thank you. I'm Chayandhar. I'm just in 3rd year St. Stephen's College, and I love colorful bands.
I'm Dia. I'm studying political science at SR, and I love to eat.
Hi, I'm Sukriti. I'm doing a dual degree in UPenn, and I'm not fond of teddy bears.
I'm Jaya. I am doing mechanical engineering in Cornell, and I play squash.
I'm Chandrika. I just graduated from Yale, and I'm the one who named her Koma because I think her name is just Koma.
Yes,
She's a perfect Koma.
Hi, I'm Varish, and I study at Castro Animation College, and I love table tennis.
Hi, I'm Madhav. I'm a freshman at UC Berkeley. I have no idea what I'm studying, and I change my major like every day.
Good morning, everyone. Most of us met at Life. We decided that, meeting once a year is not enough. And it's important that you touch base more often and continue to deliberate on whatever ideas that have got spawned through your minds and through your interactions. There are only 2 points I want to make today. One is that when we are, all of you sitting here, as far as we have evaluated, have the potential to be leaders and change makers of tomorrow. And it is our hope that you would move in that direction and in a way fulfill the kind of expectations that we have. But, it's easy for us to tell you that, you are potential leaders and, you can be the change makers of tomorrow. But it's also important to know what is it that you need on the journey for yourself personally. The second thing is, we all have goals in life. We have a kind of a focus. But opposite to that is something known as intention. We all have, very often we have intentions, I'd like to do this, I want to become that, I want to contribute this. But remember, there's a difference between intention and action. So if you want to achieve anything in life, you need to give yourself direction. Because if you give yourself direction, then that is the goal setting that you follow. And that will lead you to success. So always remember that it is not intention, but it is the direction that you give to yourself that will lead you to success. And the kind of interaction that you'll have today with the speakers who are coming in is actually to help you guide in this direction. We say poverty is bad, good governance needs to come. Now these are all good ideas and good intentions, but how are you going to give it direction? And we are very lucky that the Center for Civil Society agreed to partner with us and help us in giving you this experience. The first speaker of the day is going to be actually Bhuvana. She's an example of how you convert an intention into something that you actually do. So she's going to be your first speaker. Then we have Vaishali, who has been helping us with putting the whole thing together. You have Parth coming and speaking to you all later. Parth Shah, I'm a great admirer of him. And in the afternoon, tGELF has this terrible, what shall I say, affinity to give you something about yourself. So we do have somebody coming to talk to you all about the internal quest. And Vaishali thereafter has gathered together 3 very young social entrepreneurs to share their experiences with you. After all the depressing scenario that's happened in Delhi, when I see your young faces, I feel less depressed and I feel, yes, the future may be a better world. Thank you.
My presentation today is a little bit, if you will, technical or focuses on the political economy of India. I know that all of you are looking at leadership roles in whatever spheres in life. I think it's important that all of you have the right first principles. What I am trying to do is tell a story. And the story is that China and India, which have fairly dense populations, India is of course 337, very, very dense, have very, very low per capita incomes. But then you have other countries which are also as densely populated. Two examples right in our backyard, Hong Kong and Singapore. Magic. Two of the most densely populated places in the world with the highest per capita incomes. Something's different, right? Then there are sparsely populated countries, countries where there's square miles. Of course, somebody's going to raise their hand and say, UAE has oil, blah, blah, blah. Indicative, yes, we know that, but there's a story here. USA isn't that populated, is not that densely populated. Canada isn't. Australia isn't, okay? But then you have others, similarly, the whole African continent is an example, fairly sparsely populated, but per capita incomes are very low. Something's different. So what did these two countries with very, very opposite sets of populations do right? And what did these not? Our own example, we are so fond of saying Kerala, 90% growth, 90% literacy. Well, Kerala's per capita income compared to the rest of the country is not that great. Kerala has never been a shining example of economic growth in this country. What has been a shining example is Punjab, Haryana. They're not very smart. I'm sorry, no offense intended. They're not very educated, but they're doing something else. I'm sorry, I take that back. They're not very educated, but they're doing something different. What are they doing differently? Keralites, by the way, go abroad and become amazing entrepreneurs. Dubai is full of them, and not just laborers. They're doing fantastically well in the restaurant business. They're doing brilliantly well in the transport business. In business, as entrepreneurs who started with one fleet car and then grew. Started with one little deli somewhere in Dubai and then became restaurant owners. Well, is that really right? Are we that fatalistic? Well, Indians in India do terribly. Indians abroad do really, really well. Again, you see the same inequity here in India. Some Indians are doing fantastically well for themselves. Some Indians, not so much. Right? So what is holding back those Indians that are not doing as well? There were a larger number of us back in the 80s and the 90s. Now there are fewer, not fewer, but certainly more of us that are doing better than before. That culture of corruption, that culture of looking down upon those who are poorer, the culture of power, wreaking, every one of this has come up because through our independence, 60 years, all that happened in this country was that the rich were able to get away because they had the connections, they were able to pay the bribes for getting those licenses. And as a culture, think of Jugaad Nation. Why are we a Jugaad Nation? We're a Jugaad Nation because we had to find a way to get around all of the regulations. And today, unfortunately, that's in our DNA. So it's going to take another 20 years of growth. So small examples, look at how our plumbers work, look at how our electricians work. I've had a very personal relationship with these kinds of issues. But they always try to get around the problem. It's in our culture now. So that has bred, unfortunately, an unhealthy way of doing business. It'll change, but it'll only change if we liberate and allow for economic freedom because that brings about improvement in quality of product and services. So my silver bullet is inclusive growth needs inclusive reforms. We open it up for the rich, we didn't open it up for the poor. We can't expect the poor to be doing better. So yes, that's my very clever little illustration. But all right, thank you very much for listening patiently.
Good morning, everyone. I think you have been told a little bit about CCS, right? So our focus is actually on the government policies, how they impact the larger environment. Right? One of the big issues, of course, there is the challenges we face in the environmental area. Right? I'm going to talk to you briefly about that. Let's start. What's the problem that's being depicted? Or many people trying to do what? Fish. So what is the general problem there? Scarcity is different, right? Overexploitation, overuse, right? The many resources are actually overused or overexploited, right? Okay, one thing you see, of course, the fight between industry, agriculture, rich and the poor in terms of access to water, right? So that's about the distribution of water. Other part, of course, is pollution of water, right? Water bodies are getting polluted, our oceans, rivers, and lakes are getting polluted, right? There's a larger problem is the sort of distribution and pollution of water resources, right? So you can, of course, add many more problems to the list. I'm just giving you sort of way to think about the issues that we have within the arena of environment. Now ask yourself, why do these problems exist? What are the underlying causes or the cause, if there is one, for these problems? So as you think about, if the reason was really the human beings are very greedy, or the fact that we have unlimited wants is what's causing these problems, then there is possibly no solution to that, right? We are not going to be able to change the human nature, right? So if you think that the problems exist because of who we are as humans, then there's little hope that we can do anything about them, right? So that's why I think it's important to understand what the reasons are behind these problems. And if you understand them right, then you can, of course, think about how do we address those issues, right? So to sum up, there's two sort of approaches to solving environmental problems. One, what I call the green approach, which is what the guns and guards approach in a sense, right? Traditional approach that we have taken so far, more regulation, more controls, more laws, stricter enforcement of those laws, right? So that's the current approach that we have taken in this area. The alternate approach is what I call the terracotta approach, so which is based on more on property rights in terms of ownership of resources, and thereby changing incentives of individuals and aligning that incentive with the larger social interest, right? And thereby solving the problem, right? So I gave you 2 or 3 examples of that approach, right? I know you had chosen air and water, both of which I have not discussed here. So good homework assignment for you would be to think now harder about this approach and see whether you can solve those 2 problems that you had on your table, right? Thank you.
Okay, let me introduce myself a little bit, and then I'm going to get you all to stand up and do something with me for a second. I am a filmmaker, I am a multimedia producer, I make websites, I do social media. I do a lot of stuff in one life. And in the other life, I am also an explorer of the inner world. And I'm an amateur, just like all of us are. And I like to explore what it means to be who I am. So let's get up for a moment. Everybody stand up, please. And I want you all to, we're going to let out some energy, okay? We're going to let out some energy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rub our hands together, okay? Hard, 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 hard. Come on, really hard. Can you generate the heat in your hands? Okay, put your hands out and go, ah, ah, ah. Again. Ah, that was better. I should have. So that got you all energized a little bit. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm sure many of you have been to exercises of spirituality and who am I and questions and things like that. But we're going to approach it a little bit differently. I want some of you to just answer the question for me as to who you think you are. So just tell me who you are. Introduce yourself to me.
I am a girl. I'm an Indian. I am a student. I'm a thinker. I'm an optimist. I'm an environmentalist. I'm out.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else want to introduce yourselves? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll start with me. Now, when I think about who I am, right, I could start with, well, maybe I'm my mother's child, right? I was born somewhere. There's a little me. I was born in Africa, so my identity was a bit confused in the early days. I didn't know whether I was Indian or I was African. You know, these were all things. So as I grew up, I started to think about, am I Indian or am I African or am I a citizen of the world? You know, so how, you know, when I start thinking about who I am, I'm going from a little circle that's me as an individual, and I'm expanding my circles outwards and outwards and outwards, further and further, right? I can go even further than that. I could be a citizen of the earth, or I could be a man or a woman. Or am I a biological entity? Am I molecules and atoms and DNA and you know, there are parts of me that were probably here at the Big Bang. I am not just a human being. I am stardust. I am stuff that the entire cosmos is made of. This is where we start to move towards the ideas of consciousness or the ideas of wisdom traditions. This is where science kind of gets a little blurry. If you believe that you and the entire universe in some way, and I'm saying universe in a very abstract form here, I don't mean every particle and every cosmos, which you are really, are connected in some way, right? There is the ability for our intuitive selves to pull in information that will be good for that journey. So what you think is what you are. So the question I have for you is that, can you train your mind? If you think about it, we are a need-based animal, you know? You know, we need attention, we need fostering, we need this, we need that, need. We all have a need for safety, right? And we then have 4 other needs that define our personality, interactions with other people and the world. The 4 are power, right? Am I in control of this situation I'm in right now? Do I have control over my environment? Am I in control right now, right? The other is fun, right? Freedom and belonging. These are our 4 fundamental needs apart from safety, right? Now, if you look at these 4 needs, right? Belonging is our desperate urge to be a part of a group or not, or be a hermit. This belonging need, this is where Facebook has exploited us to the max. We want to belong. We want to be a part of something. We belong to tGELF. We belong to India. We belong. This idea of belonging can also drive you towards being a hermit and live in a cave, or make you a... So everybody I'm dealing with has the same needs in those 4 areas as I do, right? I have a fun need. I need to go out and, you know, make a joke from time to time. I need to play sports, so I need to have fun, right? I have a freedom need. I want to be left alone to ride my bike and travel off into the mountains and leave my wife and child behind. You know, I have that need, right? But how do I explore that need in my life? Reflects in every one of my interactions, right? And what I did here today with you was to bring you to a place where you are able to observe those needs, right? So I remember, it's all about needs. I always need something, you know? Yeah. Thank you. To all of you.
I'm Bhanu Joshi, and I'm heading the organization Youth for Policy and Dialogue. So what is it that I'm going to talk to you about today is the youth-led sector in India. My presentation is divided into 3 parts. One is, of course, what do we mean when we say young? What are the numbers? What do they say about young people in India and across the globe? And the second point that I would like to make through my presentation is that why is it important to engage with young people? And the last point that I would probably bring out through my organization is that how, in a sense, we are trying to make that change. This graph over here is a graph which I borrow from a recent research which happened at the RAND Corporation. Essentially what this graph, this picture is trying to say is that by 2050, China is going to shrink its working population by almost 25%. But India, East Asia, and India, of course, is going to expand this by almost 50%. So that means that the next market, the people, the engines of growth are in India and Africa. When these people were growing, it was all about Pax Britannica, Pax Americana. But now we see in a recent book by Shashi Tharoor, Pax Indica. So we are living in interesting times where what India thinks, what Africa thinks, what Indian people think and Indian young people think is going to be quite critical for the next 50, 100 odd years. What we again work here is that we again, it's the same kind of work. We try and research on economics, on financial institutions in India. One of the most celebrated paper that came out last year, and it was accepted by the government of India, and it became a part of the G20 summit this year in Mexico as well, was on the maritime economic policy. So these are the broad set of work that we are doing. I would focus a bit on the youth policy initiative because this is the end of the presentation as well. Now, this is the initiative which broadly focuses on what the first and the second point of my presentations were. We started with youth policy initiative this year, and it was basically, as I said, a response to the working group and the expert group which were set up by the Planning Commission. And this report, called the Indian Youth Ignored Constituency, we sent this report post deliberation to the Planning Commission, and we actually got a reply from Arun Mehra and Saida Hamid. And right now, post this report, because we didn't have a single representation coming from youth organization, we are today sitting with the Planning Commission and giving them some amount of policy input on youth engagement and civil society action in India. So the point I'm trying to make is that what we would like to see from you guys, number one is there should be some amount of policy-led action that you should focus on. So brilliant, you think environment is important. Brilliant, you think demography is an important subject. But until and unless you feed it into the system, there is very little action or change that you can bring about. The second thing that we are going to focus on, and I would like you guys to focus on as well, is that please try and gather more stories of youth civic engagement amongst your own peers and your respective schools, organizations, whichever you are working in. By which I mean, if you have a friend who works in some sort of a youth organization or is leading a youth organization, try and develop stories and bring it out in public domain. There needs to be more documentation of youth-led action in this country. Capacity building, I see this as one of the same ways of doing it. Platforms, your chief executive again told me that you guys are from various institutions. So there needs to be exchanging of opportunities and challenges, and there are very simple ways of doing it. There are softwares, open softwares online, where you can put in what are the strengths that each organization or each individual has, and then you can look at other people who want some kind of expertise. Right, so that's about it. There isn't much that I have to offer after this, but do check our website and like our Facebook page. And if you have any questions, you can email us at info@youthpolicy.in. Thank you.
Does anyone, like one or two people, do you want to share if you ever felt that there was this fire within, ever felt challenged? You know, there's something, I have to say something, I have to do something about this.
We went to this village in East Uttar Pradesh called Paigambarpur. It was a part of a residential program. Now the village right next to it had electricity, but then this one didn't because it was in Uttar Pradesh while the other one was in Uttarakhand. And you know the Uttar Pradesh government. So well, this village, it was very conservative, and like they were very protective about with their girls. So, you know, we had like lots of interaction with the girls. They were all very smart. They used to travel on buses for like say 2 hours to get to their colleges and do their degrees in chemistry or whatever, get back, do all the work. While all the boys in the village, they were useless. All they would do was listen to Bollywood music the whole day. And then, you know, we sat like in panchayats and everything, and the girls, they saw us speak and they felt inspired. And like even they started speaking up a bit. And like, you know, a friend and I, we were like really talking about this. And we were just like, it's not fair because, you know, here's a village and the girls are definitely much smarter than these stupid boys, and they really should get some like opportunity. So we went back to school and we started this, I'm from Welland Girls School, so we started this exchange program. Like, you know, like we have Brown Square with schools abroad. So you might as well have it with like girls from villages in your own country, because it's sort of like exposure for them, like the way we feel when we go to like other first world countries. It's sort of like that for them. So we started that whole thing, and now it's become like, it's there in the curriculum of a school, like a sensitization exchange program sort of thing. And the girls really look forward to it and enjoy it. So that was something we did.
Okay. For me, the first time this happened was when I was an undergraduate student. We were working with this group in Pakistan, and 2 people fell in love. as happens very often in, when you're working together for a long time. And these two people, one happened to be Indian and the other happened to be Pakistani. Every time they had to meet, they had to go to another country because, they wouldn't get visas. When we were with the British Council, it was still okay, you could get a visa, but otherwise it's almost impossible to get a visa to go to Pakistan. So, if you would think, okay, should we, so go to the UK or go to Dubai to even meet for one day, imagine. And then the parents got to know, and then it got ugly, and all of that. I wouldn't get into the filmy details. But what happened with me personally was, I thought, here we were, sitting in a conference room and saying we can change the world. And here are, two friends, and, they can't talk or they can't meet, and, what kind of a world is this? I can't even change this. At that moment, there was this germ in me. I felt I had to found an organization. That what I'm thinking perhaps has to outlive me. In my pessimism, in my helplessness, I felt, today I am feeling powerless. 2 years back, I wasn't. So what can I do to make sure this optimism remains? And that for me was this, aag hai mujh mein kahin. So I have something to offer. And at that time, I was also working with Center for Civil Society and all that Bhanu spoke about, policy action. So not really sort of, going into families and telling people, it's okay if your daughter loves a Pakistani, it's okay if your son loves an Indian, We are all human beings, and 60 years back, we were all one country. It's not doing that. It's making change at a policy level and just, sort of young people getting together with all that energy and, you think you can change the world. Let's found an organization. So what I wanted to share with you from these two experiences was just this idea that you're a young person. What is it that bothers you? So it could be some of you shared, you just go out and you feel, why is this child poor? Or you just feel, you did the presentation, why is India poor? So if there's one thing I want to leave you with is just this, feel angered sometime. Feel embittered, feel uncomfortable. And that's the germ of change. Change will not come if you're too comfortable. If you just think, I can write about it, I can read about it, I talk, I go home, I sleep, or I make a presentation, or I have deliverables, I have benchmarks that I meet, no. So just go somewhere, go to some place, embrace an experience that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you angry, and that makes you feel helpless for a while. And then out of that, maybe something interesting, something challenging, and something that would create change would come out. So, thank you.
Just sitting, they would segregate the waste, and then the people who was.
Okay, action plan session stops now. All the topics on the table sound very exciting at the moment. I see a lot of enthusiasm within the groups. I hope you continue with the enthusiasm. Take it to whichever city, whichever country you're going to, but early August, come up with something that is, even if it's a pilot project, come up with something that is very measurable, that is impactful, that is replicable, so that future fellows that will join you guys in the journey will continue and take it forward from there. One of the most exciting program that we do is Research in Reality internship program. We get 25 young, bright students from different colleges from all over the world for 2 months, full-time at CCS from mid-May to mid-July. Each student works on a research project. They either study different boards, associations, projects of the government. It's not just about studying them. It's about also coming up with recommendations, finding the loopholes first and foremost in these projects, and also coming up with recommendations. So you come full circle. You look at the problem, you identify the gaps, and then you talk about what could be possible long-term solutions. So I think we've had great success with that program. If you want to know more about them, please get in touch with me or Sadaf. Also check out our website, www.ccs.in. Some of the other programs that we do is iPolicy for Young Leaders. This is usually a 4-day residential program. I think the first 2 sessions, Bhuvna session and Path session, are the kind of sessions that we take students through. And these are not just environment, and there are different specific areas that we talk about, and if you're interested in them, we have the 2013 calendar of events up by January. So check out the website for more. And then of course there's always the internship volunteering opportunity at CCS. If you want to gain some experience as to how think tanks work, how is research conducted within think tanks, if you want to learn about event management, program management, communication, I think it's the perfect place to be. So exciting opportunities. I hope we get to see more often of you in the coming days. And good luck with your action plans. If you need anything from CCS, if you want more information, please feel free to get in touch with me. So thank you very much. Signing off for the day.
tGELF, leading the change.